Hey everyone, I'm Six-Path Weeb, and welcome back. Today we're continuing with What If Naruko's Teacher Was Itachi? Part 2. Quick note before we dive in, this video is made purely for entertainment and discussion. I don't own any of the anime footage, all rights belong to the original creators and copyright holders. Alright, with that cleared up, let's get straight into it. Naruko turned swiftly at the sound of her name. Her cerulean eyes widened in surprise at the figure before her. She had never imagined she would encounter this man here, alone, just after parting ways with Jiraiya. The thought had not once crossed her mind. The man wore the black cloak patterned with red clouds, a sign of the Akatsuki, and his gaze glowed with crimson eyes known as the Sharingan. Naruko recognized him at once. She had seen him before when he attempted to capture her, back during her travels with Jiraiya while they searched for Lady Tsunade. At that time, this very man had effortlessly displayed his overwhelming strength by defeating Sasuke, his own younger brother. This was Uchiha Itachi, a name both feared and respected. Known as a prodigy, he was said to be the strongest of his clan. Naruko's instinct screamed at her to flee, yet she knew she could not escape him. He was far too fast, far too skilled, any attempt would be futile. Her lips tightened as she steadied herself. She leapt down to the ground and stood tall, her expression unreadable, neither fear nor anger, only calm composure. Uchiha Itachi, Naruko said evenly. Have you come to capture me? Itachi shook his head, the gesture puzzling Naruko, though she did not allow any emotion to show on her face. He stepped closer, his features as impassive as ever. Follow me, he instructed, walking past her without another glance. Naruko hesitated, then followed. She knew she had little choice, though she kept her guard raised. Itachi had shown no aggression toward her in the past either, but that did not mean his intentions were harmless. For 3 days, Naruko journeyed alongside him. They darted across forests at incredible speed, pausing only briefly to recover their energy. During their rests, Itachi provided food, ensuring they could continue without distraction. He spoke rarely, only to signal when they would stop or set out again. Naruko did not mind the silence, it gave her time to think. She pondered her training, the reason she had left Konoha and even abandoned Jiraiya. She wanted to grow stronger, to rely on her own abilities rather than depending on the Nine Tails chakra. Still, she could not ignore the uncertainty of her situation. Was Itachi leading her to the Akatsuki's hideout? Or was there another purpose? Eventually, they arrived at a secluded house bearing the crest of the Uchiha clan. The structure was hidden deep within the forest. Inside, Itachi guided her to the kitchen and motioned for her to sit. Naruko's curiosity grew. What is this place? She asked. An Uchiha clan hideout, Itachi replied, his tone calm and flat. She tilted her head. How did you find me so quickly after I left Jiraiya? I thought I had covered my tracks well enough. I have been observing you, Itachi answered, his eyes sharp. Ever since your battle with Sasuke at the Valley of the End. Naruko's expression remained neutral, but inwardly she felt the weight of his words. Why? She asked softly. Because you are the only one who ever grew truly close to my younger brother. You understood him in ways others did not. And for other reasons, Itachi replied with measured calm. Naruko's brow furrowed slightly at his choice of words. You said were. A faint, fleeting curve touched his lips, almost a smile. You notice more than most give you credit for. You are also remarkably composed, considering the situation. That calmness does not seem newly acquired, it feels long practiced. Naruko simply shrugged. Perhaps it is. Itachi studied her carefully. Given Sasuke's actions against you, and the way you carry yourself now, I believe you no longer see him as a sister would. His voice was quiet, almost analytical. Naruko remained silent. She had once cherished Sasuke like family, but their bond had fractured beyond repair. She no longer clung to the past. After a pause, she asked, why did you bring me here? Instead of answering directly, Itachi posed a question of his own. Why did you leave Jiraiya and strike out alone? I wanted to train, Naruko said firmly. Jiraiya is a Sannin. He could have given you the training you sought, Itachi countered. Naruko shook her head. The lessons I would have received from him were limited, chakra control, basic taijutsu, and ways to manage the Nine Tails power. That path would only make me dependent on the fox's chakra. Without it, I would have nothing. Itachi regarded her with interest. He knew well how clans and shinobi often leaned too heavily on their unique gifts, forgetting to cultivate their own strength. Finally, he spoke with quiet conviction. I brought you here to offer you training. Naruko's calm demeanor faltered, her eyes widening at his words. Of all people, Itachi was the last she expected to extend such an offer. "Did I hear you correctly?" she asked, astonished. Itachi's lips curved in the faintest smile, finding Naruko's reaction to his words unexpectedly amusing. The composure the blonde kunoichi carried faltered with only a few sentences. Clearly, she still had much to learn if something so small could disrupt her calm. "You are a member of the Akatsuki, the very organization seeking me because of the 9 tails. Not long ago, you even tried to capture me with that shark-like partner of yours," Naruko said, confusion clear in her voice. By shark, she referred to Kisame. "I am no longer part of the Akatsuki," Itachi explained, his revelation leaving Naruko even more surprised. "It is true that I once tried to capture you, but that was while I remained bound to the organization." He spoke plainly, withholding nothing important. "I find that difficult to believe," Naruko replied, forcing away her initial shock. "Still, I can tell you are not attempting to seize me now. If you wished to, you would have done so the moment I encountered you. You are strong enough to overpower me instantly." She paused thoughtfully. "Your offer interests me, though. Why would you want to train me? I no longer have ties to your younger brother, and I was only a former target to you." "You are far more perceptive than many realize," Itachi remarked. Naruko only shrugged, unbothered by others' low expectations of her. "You are unique, Naruko. You carry a heart that remains kind even when faced with unkindness. Despite the hardships Konoha placed upon you, you do not hold resentment toward the village. Instead, you protect it, even when it demands much of you." Naruko raised a brow. "You speak like someone who cares deeply for Konoha, yet many say you are responsible for your own clan's downfall." Her voice carried thoughtfulness rather than accusation. "From both our previous meeting and now, you do not seem like the dangerous person people describe. Still, appearances can be misleading." "Speaking from personal experience?" Itachi asked lightly. Naruko understood his implication but merely shrugged again. "Perhaps. A wise person does not accept everything they are told at face value," Itachi replied calmly. "As for my offer of training, I have shared what I wished. The decision lies with you." Rising to his feet, he continued, "I will return in 5 days. By then, you must give me your answer. In the meantime, everything you require is here in this hideout." With those words, he departed soundlessly, leaving Naruko with many thoughts. She knew well that if Konoha discovered her cooperating with a missing nin, she would face severe consequences. Itachi was still considered highly dangerous. Yet, for the first time, Naruko brushed aside the weight of others' opinions. Instead of thinking about what the village would say, she focused on what felt right for herself. Jiraiya. The white-haired sage was in a panic. What worried him most was what Tsunade would say once she discovered Naruko was no longer with him. Just the thought made him shiver. He was certain that no one had captured her, Naruko had simply chosen to leave. He could not comprehend why. He considered himself a far better teacher than most and could not understand why Naruko would abandon him. To Jiraiya, it felt like rejection. Yet, instead of returning to Konoha and confessing to Tsunade, he decided to track Naruko down himself. She doesn't know much about the wider world and is far too spirited to remain hidden for long, he reasoned while moving swiftly through the trees. I will find her soon enough. The Uchiha hideout. 5 days later, Itachi returned. Naruko had already made her decision. From the very first day, she realized she had little choice. Accepting his offer seemed to be the only viable path forward, and she resolved to face whatever consequences followed with courage. Looking directly at him, she spoke firmly. "You knew I would accept. I had nowhere else to go. I left Jiraiya without direction, and no one else would have taken me in for training. You understood that and offered me the one path I could take." Itachi acknowledged her insight. "How perceptive of you. Perhaps I did. One thing puzzles me," Naruko admitted. "You say you no longer serve the Akatsuki, yet you still wear their cloak." "I have grown accustomed to it," Itachi replied evenly. More than mere habit, the cloak carried a meaning. Those who saw it kept their distance, sparing him unnecessary conflict. That suited him well enough. "When do we begin training?" Naruko asked. "Tomorrow. For now, you should rest," Itachi answered before walking away. Though the day was far from over, Naruko could not help but wonder about the training to come. She shook her head, letting curiosity fade, and stepped outside the hideout. Placing her hands together, she formed a series of seals before slamming her palms to the ground. Kushios no Jutsu. A great cloud of smoke erupted, revealing a towering red toad, the chief, Gamabunta. "Why did you summon me, Jiraiya?" The massive toad grumbled, clearly expecting another one of the sage's antics. It wasn't Jiraiya, it was me, Naruko said calmly, seated atop his head. The chief blinked in surprise. Naruko? Then why have you called me? This is not a battlefield. No, it isn't, Naruko admitted, her voice steady. But I have a favor to ask. The shift in her tone caught Gamabunta's attention, sparking his curiosity. What kind of favor? He asked. I was supposed to be on a training journey with Jiraiya for 3 years. However, I left him because he was not guiding me in the way I wished to grow, Naruko explained with calm determination. Jiraiya will probably try to have you or another toad reverse summon me back to Mount Myaboku once he realizes it. I want you to tell him that you cannot summon me back. Gamabunta was silent for a moment, considering her words. Was it truly necessary for you to leave Jiraiya? Yes, Naruko replied firmly. So, will you help me with this? You are asking me to refuse Jiraiya, Gamabunta said slowly. He has been a loyal summoner for many years. I cannot simply deceive him. If you cannot refuse directly, then just tell him you cannot because I requested it, Naruko reasoned. Gamabunta exhaled a deep sigh. Despite his reluctance, he could not ignore her earnest eyes. Very well, he agreed. But are you certain you will be safe without Jiraiya by your side? His voice carried concern for the young kunoichi. Do not worry about me, I am in good hands, Naruko replied with a bright smile. Summon Gamakichi regularly so that I may check on your well-being, Gamabunta instructed before vanishing back to Mount Myaboku. Naruko smiled, relieved. Now Jiraiya would have no way to track her through the toads. The contract with them was too valuable to ever abandon, but she had secured a way forward without interference. From a distance, Itachi observed with a small, knowing smile. Naruko was already showing remarkable foresight, ensuring that the toads could not be used to pull her back against her will. The next morning. At the break of day, Itachi brought Naruko outside to a secluded training ground. She had not been sleeping, her mind restless with anticipation. Itachi wished to begin her training immediately. There was much to teach, and time was a resource he never wasted. Your current strengths are the Shadow Clone Technique and the Rasengan, Itachi began, his tone steady. However, you lack a defined taijutsu style, and your speed is insufficient for higher-level battles. Before we can proceed to advanced skills, your chakra control must reach the level of a jonin, and your body must be properly conditioned. You must also know your chakra affinity. Naruko nodded with a small smile. She could already sense that Itachi had prepared a structured path for her growth. If she were still with Jiraiya, he would likely have been distracted with his own habits. But Itachi was treating her progress with seriousness, and that brought her joy. What do we begin with? Naruko asked, her voice tinged with excitement despite her composed expression. First, do you know the secret of the Shadow Clone Technique? Itachi asked. Secret? Naruko tilted her head in curiosity. Itachi sighed inwardly. It was surprising that neither Jiraiya nor Kakashi had shared such a vital truth with her. The Shadow Clone Technique has a unique ability: the clones transfer their experiences and knowledge back to the original when they disperse. I never noticed that, Naruko said thoughtfully. I wonder why no one ever told me. She shook her head and let the thought pass. This ability makes the technique an extraordinary tool for training, Itachi continued. With clones, you can achieve the results of months of training in only weeks. However, not everyone can endure this method. How many clones can you create? About 2,000, Naruko replied casually. Itachi raised an eyebrow. And you can still fight afterward? Yes. During the battle with Gaara, I created 2,000 clones and still summon the chief toad afterward. Kakashi once said that most people collapse after creating even a handful of clones. That must mean my chakra reserves are unusually large. Itachi was quietly impressed. Even at only 13, Naruko's chakra levels rivaled the greatest of shinobi. With proper control, her potential was limitless. This will accelerate your progress, Itachi said after a pause. Now, do you know your chakra nature? Naruko shook her head. Itachi produced a strip of chakra paper. Channel your chakra into this. If it crumbles, your element is earth. If it burns, it is fire. If it becomes damp, it is water. If it crackles, it is lightning. If it splits, it is wind. Naruko focused, and the paper shredded neatly. Wind, she stated. Wind was rare and difficult to master, but with control, it became a fearsome power. Within a month, your chakra control will improve, Itachi explained. He then handed her a scroll. This contains beginner texts on Fuinjutsu. Create 5 clones daily to study them. Sealing arts are complex but very useful. Naruko nodded, creating clones instantly. They carried the scroll away to begin their studies. Meanwhile, Itachi formed a clone of himself. Naruko, create 100 clones. She did so without hesitation. They will follow my clone to the Valley of the End to train in water walking and wind manipulation, Itachi said. Isn't that a visible location? Naruko asked. It is, but I have ensured that you will not be noticed, Itachi replied confidently. Back at the training ground, he returned carrying weights. Wear these on your ankles and wrists. They will build your speed and physical strength. Naruko strapped them on, wobbling slightly. How heavy are these? 5 kilograms each, 20 in total, Itachi answered. Run until your body adjusts to the extra load. Naruko began jogging. Each day followed the same rhythm, physical training for her, while her clone studied sealing techniques, practiced water walking, and worked on wind chakra. Itachi increased her weights as she adapted, but Naruko never complained. She knew that true strength could only be gained through perseverance. 6 months later. A bundle of shuriken spun rapidly through the air toward Naruko. She analyzed their speed and trajectory with sharp focus. Suddenly, the number of shuriken multiplied, filling the sky like a silver storm. Naruko exhaled softly and leapt backward, narrowly avoiding the first wave. Yet more came racing after her. In a burst of speed, she vanished from her position, reappearing several feet away as her sandals touched the ground. Without hesitation, Naruko executed a seamless substitution technique, replacing herself with a wooden log. The weapon struck the log harmlessly, and Naruko allowed herself a brief sigh of relief. But before she could relax, 2 more shuriken whistled from behind. She turned quickly, her expression tightening as she brushed them aside with controlled movements. Fire style, great fireball. A voice rang out. A blazing orb of flame surged toward her, but Naruko dashed to the side, avoiding it in a flash of agility. The moment she landed, a sudden force struck her back, pushing her forward. She flipped gracefully midair and crouched on the ground, breathing steadily. Itachi appeared beside her, his calm eyes unshaken. An opponent will never wait for you to recover, he said evenly before moving again. With precise speed, he pressed Naruko's guard, testing her reactions. Naruko raised her stance, adapting a taijutsu form similar to the Uchiha Interceptor style. The training was never easy. Itachi demanded focus, discipline, and readiness at all times. He emphasized awareness beyond sight, sharpening Naruko's instincts through rigorous practice. Weighted gear added to the challenge, 50 kilograms strapped to each ankle and 25 to each arm. Still, Naruko met the training without complaint, determined to grow stronger. At last, Itachi halted. That is enough for today, Naruko, he stated calmly. She released a long breath and sat down. Thanks to her inner resilience and the 9-tailed fox's energy restoring her strength, the exhaustion eased more quickly than it might have for others. Across the training grounds, Naruko's shadow clones continued their studies. Some worked on wind-style techniques, others on refining Fuin jutsu. Progress was steady. Itachi never allowed her to use those jutsu in sparring sessions, ensuring her foundation remained solid. Naruko had also begun exploring the art of kenjutsu. Rather than committing to a single style, she studied the philosophy behind it, the bond between wielder and blade. A true swordswoman, she had learned, must treat the sword as an extension of her spirit. It is time for me to leave for a while, Itachi said one evening, his tone serious. While I am away, create clones to study Fuin jutsu. Practice the techniques they master, and continue your kenjutsu training. Do not leave this place until I return. Yes, Naruko replied firmly. In the months she had spent with him, she had come to respect Itachi. Despite the world's view of him, she saw intelligence, honesty, and remarkable composure. Most of all, she trusted him. With her acknowledgement, Itachi turned and walked away. 3 weeks later. Naruko lay in the middle of the training ground, her clothes torn from countless sparring sessions. Her breathing was heavy, her arms and legs sore from pushing her body to its limits. A wooden practice sword rested nearby, along with scattered shuriken. In Itachi's absence, she had devoted herself to kenjutsu, slowly growing more skilled with each session. The progress was far from perfect, but it was steady and promising. She had identified weaknesses in her form, gaps in her defense that faster opponents could exploit, and she was working tirelessly to close them. Itachi approached the training ground silently, observing her dedication. When Naruko sensed his presence, she straightened, meeting his gaze. Though tired, her determination shone brightly. "You have trained well," Itachi remarked, his face calm as ever. "Go refresh yourself. I have something to tell you." Naruko nodded, rose, and walked back inside. A soothing bath awaited her, easing the tension from her muscles. Since beginning her intense training, she had traded her bright orange jumpsuit for practical dark blue shorts and a matching shirt, clothing more suited to focused practice. Later, she joined Itachi in the sitting room. He sipped tea with quiet composure, radiating an aura of peace. On the table beside him rested a small pack, hinting at his recent journey. "When I departed here, I went to Konoha," Itachi said at last, his voice even and controlled. Naruko listened silently, her expression calm. Among the many lessons he had taught her, one was perhaps the most subtle yet valuable: mastery over her emotions. Naruko was beginning to grasp the concept, though she was far from matching Itachi's remarkable ability to conceal emotions. Itachi excelled at keeping his composure. No matter how astonishing the news, his expression remained calm. Emotional control was an essential skill for a shinobi, for without it, one could easily make reckless choices. Feelings often clouded judgment and prevented the best decisions from being made. Naruko listened attentively as Itachi continued. "I retrieved a few important items that are inside this bag," he explained, pointing to the small pouch on the table. "What is it?" Naruko asked curiously. For Itachi to risk entering Konoha despite the village's mistrust toward him, the contents of the bag must have been significant. "Before I show you, there is something important I must share," Itachi said after a thoughtful pause. His calm voice carried weight. "It is something the third Hokage and Jiraiya chose not to tell you." Naruko's curiosity grew even stronger. Itachi did not label something as important unless it truly was. The fact that it concerned matters hidden even by the Hokage and Jiraiya made her heart race with anticipation. "It is about your parents," Itachi stated. "I cannot say why the third Hokage kept this from you." At those words, Naruko's full attention was captured. Every part of her wanted to ask immediately, but she steadied herself. She had longed for knowledge about her parents her entire life, yet no one had been willing to explain. She had always suspected the Hokage knew something but chose silence. "Have you heard of the Uzumaki clan?" Itachi asked. Naruko shook her head. "The Uzumaki clan, which you were a part of, once stood as allies of Konoha. The orange swirl you see on the Jonin vests is the Uzumaki clan symbol, displayed as a sign of friendship between the Uzumaki and the Senju." Naruko was surprised. She never realized her surname represented a clan. She had believed it was simply her given name since no one else in Konoha carried it, nor had she ever heard of others bearing it elsewhere. The silence around her heritage had made her think her name was ordinary. "The Senju and Uzumaki are believed to be related," Itachi continued. "The Uzumaki lived in their own land known as the Land of Whirlpools, situated on an island near the Fire Country. They were known as masters of sealing techniques, capable of extraordinary creations. They also possessed unusual vitality and unique chakra, which caused other villages to view them with both awe and unease. During a past conflict, their village was overwhelmed, leaving only a few survivors." Naruko's mind swirled with thoughts. It was difficult to understand why such a talented clan would face such hardship merely because of their gifts. Many clans were powerful, yet none had been treated in that way. People, Naruko reflected softly, sometimes envy what they cannot achieve, fear what they do not understand, and resent what feels different. They desire what catches their eyes, even if it is not theirs to take. Itachi nodded in agreement. "Indeed. That very nature has shaped much of the shinobi world." He then continued, "Your mother was from the Uzumaki clan. Her name was Uzumaki Kushina." Naruko's lips curved into a small smile, her heart stirred by the simple knowledge of her mother's name. It was as if a missing piece of her soul had been returned. For so long she had yearned for this, any connection to her parents, and now, at last, she had something real. "When Kushina came to the village, it was for a very specific reason," Itachi explained gently. "She was chosen to carry the 9 tails within her." Naruko's eyes widened. She shared the same burden as her mother. The thought of it weighed heavily on her, yet at the same time, it made her feel closer to the mother she had never known. "I never heard anyone speak of a previous host for the 9 tails before me," Naruko said thoughtfully. "And there is no mention of Kushina Uzumaki at the memorials." "Her status was kept secret, known only to a few," Itachi replied calmly. "Her name was not placed on the public memorials, and official records about her were removed. The only information that remains can be found within the Anbu archives. Before your mother, there was another, Mito Uzumaki, the wife of the first Hokage. She was the first host. Your mother was the second, and now, you are the third. Naruko's eyes widened again. To think that the wife of the first Hokage was of her clan, this meant that Lady Tsunade, granddaughter of the first, was connected to her through this heritage. Tsunade, Jiraiya, the third Hokage, all of them had known about her mother, yet none had told her. Naruko clenched her fists softly, her heart tightening. To be denied such truths about her own family felt deeply unfair. No one had the right to deny Naruko the truth of her origins, not even something as simple as knowing her mother's name. Whatever reasons people might have had, keeping such knowledge hidden was beyond understanding. Naruko could not comprehend how anyone could choose to keep such an important part of her identity from her. I still do not know exactly how the Kyuubi was released from your mother's seal, Itachi explained calmly. However, many believe a Sharingan was involved in manipulating the beast. What is certain is that the day the Kyuubi was unleashed upon Konoha was also the day your mother's life came to an end, the very same day you were born. The Kyuubi had broken free on the day of Naruko's birth. To save the village, it had been sealed into her tiny body. Her mother, after 9 months of carrying her, never had the chance to cradle her child, to hear her first words, or to see her grow. For Naruko, this knowledge weighed heavily on her heart. Her very first day in the world was marked by loss and the burden of the Kyuubi's presence. From that moment on, her childhood had been shaped by solitude, misunderstanding, and hardship. And as for your father, Itachi continued, drawing Naruko from her thoughts, you know of him already. Everyone in Konoha and beyond knows his name, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. Time seemed to freeze as Naruko processed the truth. The man she had admired all her life, the man she had aspired to surpass, was her father. Yet that same man had been the one to place the Kyuubi within her. While the villagers honored him as a hero, they looked at her with suspicion and distance. Jiraiya, Tsunade, the third Hokage, they all knew the truth. Kakashi, as Minato's student, must have known as well. Tsunade could be excused, as she had only recently returned to the village, but the third Hokage had looked Naruko in the eyes and told her he knew nothing of her parents. Even Jiraiya, her teacher and her father's own mentor, had never filled in the empty spaces in her heart. Instead, he had allowed her to carry questions without answers. Now Naruko understood why Jiraiya had urged her to sign the Toad contract and why he had taken such interest in her training. She was not simply his student, she was the daughter of his most cherished pupil. Emotions swirled within Naruko, confusion, sadness, and frustration at the secrets that had been kept from her. The air itself seemed tense as her chakra stirred. Naruko. Itachi's voice cut firmly through her storm of thoughts. He noticed the Kyuubi's chakra beginning to seep out. You must stay calm. It took her a few breaths, but Naruko brought herself back under control. The bubbling chakra faded, returning to the seal. Her gaze shifted toward Itachi, and then toward the ceiling as her breathing steadied. I gathered some belongings from your father's home, Itachi said, placing a bag upon the table. Inside are scrolls of his research, jutsu notes, and a few photographs. They are your legacy, and no one should keep them from you. Naruko's eyes lingered on the bag, then returned to Itachi. Why did you choose to tell me, when others would not? To grow into your full strength, you must know your roots, Itachi explained evenly. When you understand where you came from, you will better understand where you are going. This truth will guide your path. He rose to his feet. I will leave you to your thoughts. Once you are ready, we will continue training, with a clearer purpose than before. As Itachi departed, Naruko remained still, her mind full of questions and possibilities. At last, when the room was quiet again, she stepped toward the table. Her hand rested on the bag, and with gentle determination, she carried it to her room, prepared to explore its secrets and discover the pieces of her family that had been hidden from her for so long. Guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you found value in it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me keep creating more content for you. Every bit of support counts and pushes this channel forward. Your feedback matters to me, so feel free to drop your thoughts, suggestions, or even what you'd like to see next in the comments below. I'm always looking to connect, grow, and improve alongside all of you. Thank you for taking the time to watch and for being part of this journey. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep walking the path. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.